The United Nations Secretary-General received like a village chief. There were high hopes placed on this visit, especially for the many here wanting to see an end to the fighting between Muslim and Christian armed groups. Why are the UN peacekeepers so slow to react, one asks. What are you doing to help children going hungry, asks another. Can you not disarm these gangs that have taken our country hostage? In the Central African Republic, there are many demands placed on the 12,000 UN peacekeepers. The UN's mandate is to protect the civilian population, but scores have been killed. A peace deal signed in June has failed. Armed groups control large parts of the country as the violence escalates.
The solution to this conflict is for armed groups to disarm and for us as a nation to reconcile.
The newspaper headlines are critical of the UN. Some, especially in the Christian community, accuse UN peacekeepers from Muslim nations from not doing enough to protect Christians from Muslim armed groups.
I thought Guterres would be more firm towards certain peacekeeping troops who I think are supporting some of the armed groups. We want him to be harder with his UN troops.
Underfunded and ill-equipped, the Secretary-General wants more troops on the ground.
This is a country where a lot of people are suffering and a country that is forgotten by the international community. And we absolutely need to address the suffering of the Central African Republican people. We have asked the Security Council not only to increase the number of troops here, but also to improve their capacity to deliver support to this population.
So far, lack of funds from donor agencies has forced aid agencies to cut food rations. With 1 million displaced and half of the population dependent on humanitarian aid, the situation is dire.
If we don't provide the humanitarian assistance, people will die from malaria, people will die from cholera. If we don't provide humanitarian assistance, people won't have anything to eat.
Armed groups are targeting aid agencies. The groups try to coordinate relief efforts to win over the population. In early November, the Security Council will gather to renew the mandate of the UN mission. Some donor countries, like the United States, want to slash peacekeeping operations. The Secretary-General says this would be catastrophic for C.A.R. Divisions between Muslims and Christians are getting worse. Again and again, Guterres has called on politicians to act responsibly, for them to stop the hate speech and to start dialogue. Otherwise, even with more troops on the ground, the violence won't stop and this country will descend into chaos. Nicolas, Haque, Al Jazeera, Bangui.